Everybody, and welcome to this month's planning committee meeting. I'm glad you all missed the traffic. Right. Do we have any apologies for absences?
We've received apologies from Councillors Akhtar and Hoban. Councillor Harkness is just running late. Got Councillor Harrison here to sub.
Okay, thank you very much. Any urgent business? Nope. Declarations of interest from any members? No. Do we have any questions from the public?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Minutes of previous meetings for members who were here last time. Can we get someone to move and second it, please? Thank you. Which takes us on to agenda item number 6, Gatehead Farm in Delft. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, yes, this application, agenda item 6, you'll firstly see it's a householder planning application. And the reason it's been brought to committee for determination is because the applicant, or one of the two applicants, is a council member of staff, a senior member of staff at the council. So, in accordance with our scheme of delegation and constitution, it requires a committee decision for transparency. So the application itself, just to introduce it, is in the location shown red on the site here on the screen. So the site is Gatehead Farm, Gatehead Road in Delft, and the application proposes the erection of a timber field gate to provide vehicular access and pedestrian access to an existing parking area. So the site itself, it is in the curtilage of an existing dwelling. The building is a Grade 2 listed property, and the site also falls within the green belt. So the actual proposal itself, that's the site plan, just showing a closer image of the layout, and perhaps more importantly, just the elevation views to show the context of what the application concerns. So it is the gates there that are 8.1 metres in length, secured to 1.6 metre high gate posts, and quite importantly from a highway perspective, those gates will open inwards into the site for highway safety reasons. So the main considerations associated with the determination of the application are whether the principle is acceptable, particularly given regard to the green belt location, whether the impact on the setting of the listed building is acceptable, and also more general considerations of residential amenity, design and highway safety. There is a minor update on the late list, which is more of a procedural matter. During the consideration of the application, there has been some representations made regarding land ownership and rights over land, and the purpose of the late list is just to update members that we've had a slight alteration to the red line site location plan. Doesn't affect the subject matter of the application in terms of where the gates are proposed, and that's linked to the certificate of ownership that's been submitted with the application. So it's a procedural matter, and if there are any ongoing concerns as a result of that, and that's assuming the application is approved, that would be a civil matter, and that's explained in the report. So, in summary, the application is recommended for approval, subject to a condition for time limit, approved plans, and a condition requiring that the gates open inwards. And just a couple of photos just for completeness. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for the officer? Nope. No questions, okay. We don't have the applicant today, do we? No. Okay, so I'll open up the floor for discussion. Yep, Councillor Davis.
Thanks, Chair. I think I'd recommend that we approve this subject to the conditions or whatever. And I mean, we wouldn't even hear about this. It's been recommended by the planning department for approval. They would have approved it. It wouldn't have even come here if it wasn't a relation or whatever the situation. So, can I recommend this for approval?
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Yep.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's a perfectly reasonable application, and Parish Council have already approved it, haven't they? So I will second that.
Thank you, Councillor Bashford. So all those in favour? All those against? Is that unanimous? Yep, thank you very much. That passes. Okay. Next agenda item, which is land west of Leonard Way in Royton. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Chair. This is an application, it's a full application for 2 new commercial units to be used either for general industrial or warehousing and storage uses. So this is the site itself. So as you can see from the viewpoint, it's the area roughly in the centre of the picture at the moment. It's a site that's previously been cleared, and the reason it's been cleared previously is that there's been an approval back in 2020 at that point for a single larger unit on the site. So some development work in terms of ground preparation has already started, and as you can see there, the area is currently barren in terms of its coverage. You'll also see from that viewpoint that the area in which it sits is one which is primarily industrial in character. So there's an open storage area with more smaller industrial units immediately to the south and a couple of larger units to the north of the site. Vehicular access to the site is taken from Salmon Fields, which is off to the north of the site, just where the red arrow is positioned at the moment, and then obviously that gives easy access to the strategic road network. So this is the proposal. So it's the view in the bottom left-hand corner that you're actually looking at. So this is, you can see the access road goes north from that. That's the link through. That's partly adopted and partly a private road. And then you can see two units which will be proposed on the site. The image in the top right corner is just by perspective to give you an idea of the scale and size of the unit that was previously approved on the site, which, as I say, is just a large single unit on there. So again, this is just another viewpoint of the site. What you can see, so this is actually facing to north on this particular viewpoint, is over to the left. To the bottom of the picture, which is the western view, you're down onto Oldham Edge. So this is a very wooded area. There's a public footpath which runs along the top, so that's the left-hand side as you view it, area of the site. That's not affected by the development proposal itself. And these are just images. So we looked at the layout, so as you can see, there are 2 large industrial units. The areas for servicing, outdoor servicing, so the unit on the right-hand side, which is the area nearest to residential properties, you can see that the service area is on the north side of that building, and similarly the area to the larger unit, the service area is between the 2 existing units. So these are just images giving you the building. Essentially it's a couple of large industrial buildings, and this gives you an indication of the landscaping on the site. So as I say, as you can see, the site has previously been cleared. There will be new tree planting actually within the development, and there's some installation of bird and bat boxes as well, as recommended by GM Ecology Unit. So these are some photographs showing areas around the site. So this is the boundary, the footpath that runs along the northern boundary of the site. So it's got industrial premises to either side of it, but the route of the footpath isn't actually affected by the development. This is the access road, Flennon Way. The development site itself is on the right-hand side as you come through. And beyond that, so again, running parallel with Leonard Way, there is another public footpath, and this links you through from Salmon Fields all the way through to Higginshaw Lane. And as you can see there, the application site is on the left-hand side. So you can see that there's quite a wooded aspect between those 2 elements of the site. Now this picture is to actually show the relationship to the neighbouring residential properties. So the nearest properties, so if you look at the left-hand picture, roughly to the right of centre, you can see the nearest property, and then just to the north of that, there are further residential properties on Higginshaw Lane or back of Higginshaw Lane. You can also work out from there, you can just work out the tree cover that's within that area. The right-hand view gives you a view from that footpath that you previously saw that links through to the site itself. So in terms of the actual development proposal, as I say, there's been previous approval for an industrial unit on the site. The site is within a business and employment allocation, so obviously the particular type of activity on there again complies with local planning policies. With various consultation responses in terms of ground conditions, there is an outstanding issue from the Environment Agency in terms of groundwater protection, and that's in relation to previous uses of the site that obviously predate this application. Because that issue hasn't been resolved to date, you'll note that there is a planning condition that's being recommended to deal with that particular issue. In terms of other drainage matters, United Utilities have agreed the proposed drainage scheme for the foul and surface water on the site, and again implementation of that will be part of a condition of the application. In terms of noise and other potential nuisance from the site, a noise impact assessment was submitted with the application, and that's been assessed by the Environmental Health Officer. We are aware from our contact with the EHO that there have been various complaints from residents in the area about noise, partly on this site, it has to be said, during the construction period and some of the development site issues that have been going on, but also in relation to some of the other sites in the area. The AHO informs me that at least one of those issues is readily capable of being resolved, but there is of course an issue that the site is an industrial one. There will always be some noise generated by those units, and that is the character of the area. There is a recommendation nevertheless that certain limits will be placed on noise generation from the site, and you'll note that in the details of the conditions that are being put forward. So although there have been some concerns about the development, as I say, it's an established site for an industrial approval. There are no highway issues being raised, and other issues to do with ground contamination, drainage and ecology are dealt with through the imposition of conditions, which is similar to the situation with the previous application. So therefore, it's recommended for approval, subject to those conditions in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do members have any questions? Councillor Hinds.
Thank you, Chair. I know you said it had previously been approved as an industrial unit. Do we know what it was prior to that? Has it always been industrial in living memory, or?
From my knowledge, there have been previous industrial activity on the site, which has been included storage of waste materials and so forth. And I think that's the nature of why the Environment Agency are more concerned about it, to make sure that the existing materials that are on the site...
Can I ask members of the public to please remain quiet whilst the officer is speaking? Thank you.
The existing materials on the site obviously have been adequately dealt with, and therefore that there won't be any contamination of groundwater on the site itself.
Thank you. Councillor Bashworth.
Thanks. Are there any thoughts of putting conditions on the hours of the construction? Because you're quite right, Graham, there have been a lot of complaints, and over the years I've been involved in a lot of complaints on this industrial estate. 3663, we took them to court once over the noise, it was that bad. We've got other various activities, and you're quite right, we've got environmental health people dealing with noise from a window crushing firm that I don't believe have permission at the moment. And there is a lot of noise comes from this site. And whilst I absolutely get it's industrial and there's nothing we can do to stop industrial, we really do need to consider the people who do live around this. And I think we ought to look at how we deal with the construction phase. at this point, so that residents are not disturbed by the building works. Can you have a look at that, Graham?
Yeah, I think we can do that. In terms of the construction management plan, which obviously, say, work has already commenced on the site, and that would have been in connection with the previous approval that had been granted. But if members are minded to do so, we can impose a further condition that relates to this particular site and really the commencement of building work. So as you can see, the site works have taken place, but no actual construction of a building has started on site. We can deal with that particular issue at that time. So if members were minded, there is no reason why a construction management plan related to those elements of the work, so which is the specific building of these two structures, we couldn't control that. As I say, I am aware that environmental health are dealing with issues, and that includes issues with the construction period on this site. And I have to say, the last time I visited the site, it was incredibly noisy. So we are aware that there has been an issue with that, and that's why environmental health are currently involved in that issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
My question's been asked, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other members have any further questions for the officer? Councillor Hinds.
Sorry, just for my reference really. It's all very well saying we'll put in restrictions on construction signs and noise. Are they easily enforceable?
They are enforceable, yes. Obviously all your difficulties are going to be in this type of areas. This isn't the only site where activity will be taking place. There are other units in the area, all of which have permission to operate on a 24-hour basis. So yes, they can be. You know, we can clearly tell that activity is taking place on this site, and appropriate readings can be taken. Certainly hours of work can be readily looked at by our enforcement officers.
Thank you. It's just that Councillor Bashworth mentioned historic problems on that estate, and I got the impression he was intimating that's ongoing.
As I say, I am aware that environmental health are looking at a number of issues. So that includes the site that Councillor Bashworth referred to immediately to the south. There are other issues with, I think he mentioned about a tone noise, which is being emanated. They're currently investigating. That's normally because some fan or ventilator is not operating correctly. That's a resolvable one once that has been identified. So yes, there are a number of issues on different sites in the area, and obviously if there's a statutory nuisance associated with any of those, then our environmental health would take appropriate action. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll now move on. I believe we have Ms. Kay Smith who's objecting to the application. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Is it 3 minutes, Kay? 3 minutes to speak, and the officer will let you know 30 seconds before your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Acknowledging the ongoing problem, Steve, because it is a bit ridiculous. I haven't got speech, I just want to speak from the heart. It has been an ongoing problem. I've lived in the area for over 20 years. It's not just noise, it's relentless. You all seemed a little bit annoyed that people from the public were shouting then, but at least you can ask them to be quiet. I can't ask the businesses to be quiet, I get ignored. We don't just have a tone, we have this vehicle is reversing, we have beeping, we have unsheeted wagons, so we have dust. We also have bricks coming off these wagons causing structural damage to the properties. We also have a road that you won't fix that is causing the properties to shake, but you just keep adding to it. I know you're saying it's an industrial area, but when you wanted, instead of a car lot, you wanted to build houses on the site next to us, it suddenly wasn't an industrial area and you could suddenly have residential, but now you've flip-flopped it back to it being industrial again. It's relentless noise. I don't know why you're saying that you're going to look at the potential of the flooding. It floods on Salmon Fields right outside Leonardo Way. So I don't know how the trucks are going to turn up the road to get there to begin with, unless you're going to open up Buckley's Yard to go right through. But then you're just turning our main road into more of an issue with more traffic, more noise and more we don't really care about the residents. And that was just made quite clear when you just turned around and said, well, it's an industrial area, so, you know, it's already been approved, is basically what you're saying, without any care to any of those residents. And all you keep talking about is Oldham Edge side. What about the fact that we are really close to them? I had a letter off James Briggs the other day asking me to provide emergency contact information, and the fire brigade are happy for us to do that. What is that for? In case it blows up? Because that's how I'm taking it, with those high pressure gas tanks. And again, nothing. You just want to add another building and another set of noise. And it's just ridiculous. Where is the thought for us? Every day we get noise. And night. Always. Constant. Relentless. If it's not one, it's beep, beep, beep. This vehicle is reversing. Oh, this vehicle is turning left. I don't even know why you give Charlton's the permission. It's not even a big enough site for them. And you're just adding more and more and more to it. When is it going to stop? You're going to flatten all the houses and build on them as well? It's just ridiculous. And then you look down, you can't even look at us when I'm talking, because that's how much you care about the residents.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions for the speaker? Yes, Councillor Hinds.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say, obviously, this seems a traumatic experience for yourself living in this situation, and any new development, however justified, should fit in my view, with existing residents or businesses. And I just want to reiterate that from a council or an environmental health point of view, we've clearly failed these residents with the existing issue. And we've obviously demonstrated we
can't. Do you have a
get any
question
trust.
for the speaker?
Yes. Sorry, yes, I do. Could you just give a little bit of detail of how it's affected your life?
Constant. I couldn't do my GCSEs. I couldn't concentrate for my degree. I couldn't concentrate for my A-levels. I can't concentrate now. I lose sleep. I can't, you know, it's a struggle then when you've got to get up at 4 o'clock to get to work. It's a nightmare. And then when you do get to sleep, you get disturbed again. And it's to the point that when it is quiet, I know that you're talking about all them trees, but I can hear people having a conversation in those yards. And yeah, you do cut them down. I know you plant new ones, but it takes time to grow. But I can hear somebody saying, "Oh, what are you doing on a Friday night?" I can hear that. When I'm lying in bed, I can't open my windows because I've got dust, I've got a smell of a slaughterhouse. And you just want to add more to it. And you can't even really tell us what it's going to be, which is just even more worrying. Because is it going to be something else that can blow up? Is it going to be something else that smells? Is it going to be something else that causes dust? Is it going to be something else that causes relentless, constant noise? But thank you to the few of you that have, you know, are taking this on board, and I can tell you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Does anyone else have any questions for the speaker? No. Thank you for your time. I'll now move on to the applicant, Ms. Miranda Bell. Thank you. Again, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and 30 seconds prior, you'll be notified. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. I have got a pre-prepared speech, but there is obviously a number of issues that have been raised today that I'd like to redress. So I just want to very quickly run through what I was going to say in the first instance and then move on to what Kay said to us today. So my name is Miranda Bell. I'm the planning manager at Marshall CDP with the applicants. We are a company with over 100 years construction experience and have a significant track record of delivering high quality industrial and commercial developments across the north of England, providing considerable investment and job opportunities. A local example is 2 units recently completed at Cobalt Way off Fox Denton Lane in Chadderton. The scheme before members today is a revised scheme for 2 industrial units following approval of a single unit scheme on this site 3 years ago. This planning permission has been lawfully implemented. The site's been cleared and prepared, but due to changes in demand, we are seeking smaller units instead of one larger unit, as this will be more appealing to the current market. As you'll be aware, the site has been earmarked for employment use in the local plan for some time, and the principle of development is firmly established. The proposed development will create jobs and direct investment into the community, and the benefits of this can't be emphasised enough given the current economic challenges we face as a country. Based on the HCA's employment density guides, which is a tool used to calculate potential job creation, we estimate that the development could generate up to 300 jobs. But at the same time, the supporting technical documents which assess matters such as traffic and noise have demonstrated, and your officers have confirmed, that the proposals will still result in acceptable impacts, but this is subject to conditions. We therefore request that the proposals are approved as per the recommendation, which I state include conditions, which do include noise and pollution, which we are pleased to accept. Just to respond to what Kay and other members of the audience have said, we weren't aware as a company of the noise complaints until Mr Dickman advised me last week. So I have looked into this, and one of the machines that was being used, which I understand was creating noise, is now it's no longer needed, that the work's been completed. We did provide a construction management plan with the application, which I expected to have been approved, but I think in the circumstances it's a document that we could seek perhaps to condition so that we can work with the local residents to make sure that it's an acceptable document. I'm sorry for what's happened. It is obviously an industrial area, but we'll do what we can. But I would like to ask the members to support our application.
Thank you, Ms Bill.
Subject to noise and other related conditions.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for Ms Bill? Yep, Councillor Gloucester, then Councillor Hinds.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask how long environmental health have been involved on this site? Probably Steve will know better than anybody, but I'm assuming it's a considerable amount of time. So it's not necessarily this, or, you know, you've said it's not this site, but obviously it's been ongoing with environmental health for, you know, a number of months, or could be longer, I'm assuming. I'd just like to know how long environmental health have been dealing with the complaints, please.
Yeah, so I don't have the full...
Sorry, Graham, is that a question for the applicant? So if you, yeah, we'll move on to that afterwards, yeah. Councillor Hinds.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm okay, but obviously not very happy to hear what this lady and other people have been...
I've just picked up on something that you said, which kind of confused me. You mentioned a machine on another site making some noise, almost as if you're responsible. Have you got a connection to that other site?
No, so this site has an existing planning permission, which we've lawfully implemented. We've discharged all the relevant planning conditions.
So, you misheard what I've said. You said in relation to the site itself or the area, yeah, you said one of the businesses on there had a machine that was making a noise and is no longer not needed.
Yes.
How are you connected to that machine and business?
So our contractors were using that particular machine, and Mr Dickman highlighted it. He sent me a photograph. I spoke to our project manager, and he established with the contractors that it was a machine that we've been using, but it's now been ceased to be used because, first of all, the work that it was required to do has been completed, but at that point we hadn't been made aware of the issues with the noise. Environmental health hadn't been in touch with us.
So you don't do your own due diligence in that? Because I run a factory and we have meters and we go round and we regular test and stuff, so you just hope you don't get a complaint and...
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all. I think I don't know how long this particular machine was in use. I don't know if it was a short-term thing. Obviously, we have got a construction management plan in place, and that dictates things such as hours. We've put in a further construction management plan for this application, and I expected it to be approved as part of this application. But it sounds to me as though we need to look at it. You know, we can't continue to have issues caused to local residents, which are causing the distress. So what I'm suggesting is a condition that we submit that documentation in dialogue.
I just find it funny that you're suggesting that in front of a planning committee asking for a planning.
Councillor Hinds, we've got Councillor Bashforth waiting. Thank you.
Okay, it's a similar question. What was the machine and what was it doing?
I'm not an expert. I understood it was to be a crusher.
So can I just highlight that it's not relevant to the application? So if you can ask another question, perhaps. Thank you.
Well, I disagree. I respect the chair, but I wanted to know what the machine was. Was it to do with the construction or not? Could you just answer that? Was it to do with the construction or not?
My understanding was it was used as part of the preparation of the site, because we have planning permission, as I say, for a single unit scheme, and we discharge relevant planning conditions related to external materials, landscaping, site investigation, landfill gas, drainage, wheel cleaning, site levels, a construction environment management plan, coal mining site investigation and an energy strategy. So those are all pre-start conditions that need to be discharged before we start on site, which we did and got approval for before we commenced on site. The development should be being carried out in accordance with those, but if there's an issue with this, then obviously we need to tackle it. But I was only told literally last week, so we've not had a chance yet to try and resolve the matter. But as I say, not to keep repeating and wasting your time, but we can put in another construction environment management plan. We can look at these issues more carefully as part of a condition that the document would need to be agreed again by your planning department.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. I've just spoken to the officer, and I think that'll be agreeable, and we can add that in as a condition if members agree. Councillor Hinds.
Sorry, just one final question. You mentioned this development. You would anticipate, I think you used the figure of 300 jobs. I'm just wondering how you've come to that nice round figure in terms of if you don't know which business is going to be occupying it, if you don't know what it's going to be. Just what formula do you use?
Of course, I understand your question. So there's something called, it's the Homes and Communities Agencies. It's called, it's called the Homes Communities Agencies Employment Densities Guide. 3rd edition 2015 is the document. What it enables you to do is to, based on the gross internal floor area, which in this instance is 11,100 square metres, you can estimate, based on that floor area, for any particular use type. So in this instance it's B2 and B8 that we're applying for. You can calculate, and in this instance what it tells us is that a B8 user, which is a warehouse use, that is less dense in terms of employment numbers. So the minimum based on a B8 use of the whole of the floor area is 159 jobs, full-time equivalent jobs, up to, if it was entirely B2, which is manufacturing, 308. So it's not quite a round figure. I said 300, it's actually 308. So you would expect that a user taking those units for either B2 or B8 or a mixture would generate somewhere within the region of 159 and 308 jobs.
Thank you. Is it relevant?
So it's a
to-
guess.
This is a tool.
Councillor Hinds, is it relevant to the application?
The-
I believe it is because they're selling it on bringing jobs into the community. So I could say, you know, they could stand up and say 10,000, couldn't they? I mean, I want to see that figure quantified.
Just 1 second. Yep.
So, Councillor Hinds, it's not a guess. The applicant has explained the formula that is used. It's a standard formula that is used across the industry. You can't be specific at this point. No one can be specific at this point until we know precisely which business is going in and how they operate. But on the basis of the evidence behind that study, it is an informed estimate of how many jobs will be created. And it's perfectly reasonable and justifiable as part of the evidence.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Ms Bell, for your time. Does any members have any further questions for Ms Bell? Right, okay, we'll move on. So we'll open the floor for discussion. Do members have any questions? Yep, Councillor Gloucester, yeah. Can you just repeat your question, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it was just how long, I understand it's possibly not this site, but I think it's from every site. I just want to know how long environmental health have been involved on this site, whether it's 1 or 10 businesses, I don't really care.
Graham, yeah.
I can't confirm that to you because my conversation with them was in connection with this particular development proposal. And as a result of that, when obviously I raised the issues about potential noise that's coming from this site, it was obviously mentioned that there are other issues in the area that they are also currently engaged in. So assumedly those have been going on for some time. The issue in relation to this site and the equipment that was mentioned, which was a kind of crusher, because obviously I heard it myself on the site, that's part of the preparation works for this development, but you've been informed that that element of it is finished, but obviously if permission is granted there'll be extra work on the site, and that's where this construction management plan will come into play, that we will add a condition that relates to that if members wish. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, I'm thinking about the noise, and there are obviously certain conditions about the sound not exceeding it. I'm just wondering whether anything has come back from environmental health when they've been doing the prep work in terms of the decibels.
Yep, Peter.
I'm conscious about where the discussion is going in this application tonight. What we are tasked to decide is whether the application before us is acceptable going forward. It's not about judging the application on what has gone before in terms of other uses in that area or even construction work on this site. So I'm just conscious that while they're all perfectly valid questions in a wider sense, in the sense of determining this application tonight, we have to look forward and consider about whether what we're putting in place, if we grant this permission, is acceptable.
Thank you. Do any other members have any questions? Yeah, Councillor Bashworth.
It's not so much a question, Chair, just an observation.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, so there have been noises from this site for many, many years, and I can still hear them now from where I live, which is right the other side of the site. And I'm fully aware that's not relevant to this. And all these arguments are valid, but I know that this building can legally be put there, and there's nothing anybody in this room can do to stop that. However, residents are quite rightly concerned about the cumulative impact of another unit on that site, particularly now when they are experiencing really loud noises at all times of the day and night. So that's what the residents here are concerned about. I know that we can't stop this even if we wanted to, and in any other circumstance this is a perfectly reasonable building for this site, and I think this will probably finish the site off as well in terms of additional development on it. But I just have to stress that the residents, while don't understand planning, they've come here to express a genuine concern about the environment around where they live and the possible impact of additional noise. So I know full well that we can't stop this, but what I know full well is that we can we can impose conditions, and I think the lady's open to that, to make sure this particular site doesn't add to the problems that we're already experiencing. And we will continue to deal with the problems that we're already experiencing as best we can. So I think that's where we're coming from. So, you know, the residents, not being planning experts, have come here to voice that concern. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where they're coming from, and quite rightly so too.
Thank you, Councillor Bashforth. I think it has been established that Ms Bell and the company are willing to put that condition in there. And as I mentioned, we are able to put that condition within the application. Councillor Hinds.
Sorry, just for clarity, is that a standard condition, or is it in tune with, is it varied depending on the site? Because what I'm thinking is, would it not be pertinent to agree the conditions before we agree the planning permission?
Yep, Peter.
So the condition itself, as in what's written on the planning permission, will be a fairly standard about agreeing a construction and environmental management plan before commencement of further development of this application, permission, if it's granted. Obviously, the nature and what goes into that construction environmental management plan, that is what the applicant would submit to us through a discharge of condition application that an officer would consider, and obviously we would, as officers, we would consider that thoroughly and in the context of what the applicant has engaged with the local residents to try and mitigate the effects.
So does that mean that has to be agreed with potential enforcement before they can drive a digger on that site?
Go on, Graham.
The complication with this site is that there is a extant approval on the site. So the developer is able to do that in terms of the work that's currently taking place, the site clearance and so on. What they obviously can't do, well, they could continue and erect the building that previously got permission on the site. But if they want to carry out the revised scheme that's now been put forward, then we can impose limitations on that based on the management plan that they would need to put forward.
Do any other members have any questions or comments? Yep, Councillor Gloucester.
Yeah, can I just ask, have there not been any residential objections to this? Because I can't see any in the report.
I'll bring in Peter on this.
Which I find
Graham,
a little bit
yeah, I'll
interesting.
bring in Graham on this, thank you.
Through you, Chair, there are two representations referenced in the report. Grounds of increased noise, nuisance and pollution adding to existing problems. It's under the publicity and third party representation section.
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions, then Councillor Davis.
I mean, the good thing about this new application is it's allowed us now to put these conditions in, and as Councillor Bashforth suggested, to support the residents with the noise. So that's the good thing about this application being put in again, is give the opportunity now to do that. So, you know, that's a good thing.
Is that an indirect way of saying that you'll move the recommendation? Councillor Davis. And obviously,
I'll recommend it to you with all the conditions and what's been spoken about, suggested by Councillor Bashforth tonight.
Thank you. Anyone to second that? Councillor Ibrahim. Yep. Yep, with the conditions attached. Yep, that's fine. All those in agreement? Against? Abstentions? I think that carries.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you to the speakers. And thank you to the members of the public for attending tonight. We move on to land east of Albert Street in Hollingwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is another proposal for employment development, and it also relates to a site on which there has previously been a planning permission granted a few years ago. So this is the site itself in Hollywood. It joins the M60 at that point, which is along the eastern boundary of the site. It's very close to the junction with Manchester Road, and the Hollingwood tram stop is also within fairly close proximity to the site. So this is the site itself, as you can see. The area is in the centre there. Where the little red arrow is at the top left-hand side, that's a new roundabout junction that's being created on the site. So that will serve the site as you access off from Albert Street. There's an area immediately to the north, and there is a drive-through on that site. And again, that was part of the original approval for the site. So this is essentially a detailed application to complete that proposal for a variety of commercial units on the site. Similar to the last application, they would look to have hours that would allow 24-hour operation on the site. This is a picture of the actual site layout itself. So as you can see there on the right-hand side, centre to the right-hand side, various units on there, buildings of different size, obviously intended to provide facilities for different types of businesses and their particular needs on the site. The access to the site comes from the new roundabout that has been created on there. One other issue across the site is that there used to be a public footpath, and that public footpath is just a field footpath across the site. As part of the proposals, that will be diverted along the edge of Albert Street, so this will be a properly constructed path, and as you'll see from the photographs I'll show you in a minute, the benefits there certainly to users of the area beyond this particular site itself. So this is the junction. This is the far end of the site of the Roman Road junction. It's not anticipated that traffic, particularly the commercial vehicles, would generally come through this junction, as this is the opposite direction to heading onto the motorway network. And this is the issue I was saying on Albert Street itself. So on the opposite side of Albert Street, there are a number of existing industrial businesses, and obviously the employees of those businesses and sometimes deliveries of those businesses tend to park, cause obstructions on the footways. So if you look at the left-hand photograph, and you see that footpath there that's obviously been narrowed by the vehicles, adjacent to that, so there'll be a narrow landscape strip, and then a new segregated footpath link will be provided along Albert Street at that point, which is clearly a benefit to the wider users of the area, as I say, not just the business itself. And these are pictures again at the northern end of the site, so these are showing the new roundabout and the new access and the adjacent unit that's been created on that area. These are just typical sections through, showing you the types of buildings, again a bit like the last application. They're generally industrial buildings, various bits of decor provided on there, but essentially they are large structures. From the previous approval, there were limitations placed on the height of the buildings. These buildings don't come close to that height. I think it was 18 metres originally. These are much smaller in terms of their overall height. This is just the landscaping. So again, at the bottom, as you can view this site, you might just be able to make out the kind of brown grey colour runs along the units. That's the new footpath link that links through the site. You can obviously see that on the external boundaries there is new landscaping that's being proposed. And these are some visuals that have been provided by the applicant, just to give an indication of what the units will look like when complete. So as I say, this is again a similar element to the last application. The principle of industrial development has been approved. It is an allocated site for employment uses, so what we're actually now seeing is the full development of the site being brought to fruition, and obviously employment generation that comes from that. Your highways officers obviously looked at the details of access to the site and is satisfied with those. Highways England these days, National Highways, they keep changing the name. National Highways initially raised some issues about potential traffic generation obviously in relation to the motorway junctions, but following the submission of additional details, they've been satisfied with that. Active Travel England, who are now a statutory consultee on the application, have also made comments on the site, and as a result of that, some further information has been provided. We've looked at potential options for improving access other than via motor vehicles to the public transport modes in the area. As you could see from the pictures, a lot of highway improvement work has taken place, and therefore we're satisfied that sufficient has been done there to ensure that, for instance, employees from this site can access those facilities readily and safely. So on the basis of those factors, it's recommended the application be approved, again subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions for the officer? Councillor Harkness and Councillor Bashworth.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just it mentioned in the obviously the consultation, the Highways Officer recommended conditions relating to proposed vehicle parking and servicing. There's nothing in the conditions about that, but it does mention in the, it sounds as if there's quite a lot of parking, 193 spaces. So I'm assuming that's acceptable.
Yeah, I'll just come in on that first of all. Condition 16. Yeah, condition 16 relates to the development not being brought into operation until the access car parking spaces and servicing areas have been put in place. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bashworth.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm going to support the development, but I think I was having the misfortune to use the motorway junction on a daily basis there, which is frequently gridlocked. I'm quite surprised to hear that Highways England, or whatever they call now, think that it's fine.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for the officer? No. I believe we have the applicant here. So you have 3 minutes for your speech, and as I said before, 30 seconds, the officer will notify you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We support the officer report, his presentation which speaks for itself, and his recommendation to grant full planning permission. The applicant has designed a high-quality industrial scheme which reflects local occupier and market need and addresses all technical constraints. There are no objections from technical consultees. The scheme presents an opportunity to create employment growth in the local economy, regenerating this vacant site. Subject to the grant of permission, the applicant will be looking to start on site in the early part of 2024. We therefore respectfully request you grant permission today. I'm happy to answer any questions that any members has. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Winter, for that short speech. Any questions for the applicant? No, thank you. I'm now move on to opening up the floor. Any questions, comments, or observations? None. Would anyone like to move for recommendation?
Chair.
Is that a question or a move? Or
move, sorry.
Move, yep,
Yeah.
Okay. And
I'm
I think
happy to move it.
Yep, and Councillor Cosgrove, I think your hand was up. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's approved. Next item on the agenda is former Highbound Resource Centre in Royton.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, item number 9 on the agenda is the former High Barn Resource Centre on High Barn Street in Royton. So committee members may recall dealing with an application on this site when they considered it in March 2022. And that's for the redevelopment of the site with a 3-storey apartment block comprising of 30 apartments and the associated works. So development has commenced following the approval of that application in June 2022, which itself followed the completion of the required Section 106 agreement, which was in respect of open space and affordable housing. So the location plan identifies the site, and as you can see, the development has commenced, and the photographs show the development in progress. So the purpose of this current application, it's known as a minor material amendment under section 73 of the Planning Act, and it simply proposes an amendment to the existing permission that has been implemented. So in effect, it is to amend the approved plans condition and condition number 3, which is the energy assessment report. So essentially what this is all about, it's a proposal to replace the approved photovoltaic solar panels on the building with air source heat pumps instead to achieve the energy requirements that the scheme requires. This has been assessed against our local plan policy, Policy 18, and is considered to be acceptable and meets its requirements in full. All other aspects of the development remain completely unchanged, so there is an extant permission, so this application is just for those changes, which are obviously minor in relative terms. And you'll see from the report, the application is recommended for approval. There is a minor procedural issue, which slightly changes the recommendation that's been set out. So in your report, you'll see the recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. The original application linked to the Section 106 agreement for open space and affordable housing, in order to ensure that the Section 106 agreement carries forward to apply to them if this application is approved, it will need what's called a deed of variation to link it. If it's approved without that, it effectively becomes severed from that legal agreement. So, in short, the amendment is minded to approve, subject to the completion of a deed of variation, plus the conditions stated in the report. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and that clarification. Do members have any questions for the officer? Nope. I don't know any speakers. I open up the floor for discussion. Councillor Bashworth, you've on.
Sorry, you'll be fed up with me tonight. You might recall that I actually spoke against this a few years ago on the grounds of the overbearing nature and the design of it, and I haven't changed my mind on that. But in light of what has just been explained, I'm going to support it, but I just felt it was right to mention that originally I was against the development. It's here now, and what is being suggested is perfectly reasonable, so that's how I'll justify my support, if I need to.
Thank you, Councillor Bashworth. I do remember you strongly objected against this, yeah, thank you for that clarification. Do we have anyone that will move the recommendation? Councillor Hinds, anyone to second? Councillor Fryer. Okay, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And the last thing is just to note the appeals update. Do members have any questions on that? No. Give you another 10 seconds to quickly look at it. No questions on the appeals? Is that noted? Well, that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.